Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Pray that you are all well and in the best of health and iman, inshallah ta'ala. Today is a continuation of our Sunday discussions. Well, what better things could you have on a Sunday than to have these discussions on the topic of the Deobandis? Obviously, as I explained last week, it was kind of thrust upon us due to certain challenges that two individuals from the north of England decided to almost suck us into challenges by making all sorts of absurd comments and misrepresentation of the Shia school of thought. Hence why we started this series. Alhamdulillah, we've been dealing that aside, the issue of the Deobandis aside, we've been dealing with a number of topics on different subject matters. And we've alhamdulillah, we've talked about subjects such as the Sahaba, Dala of the Sahaba, the subject of Tawheed, other issues. We've done sort of Google Hangouts. All of that is really to try and provide the Shia perspective, because we always subject to constant a barrage of allegations thrown at us. Really, the idea behind the channel has been to provide a platform to respond to these types of allegations in an academic manner. Now, unfortunately, what happens is when you get this sort of scenario and you do start producing textual evidences as a response, and basically the approach that we use is to focus on authentic texts. If we are going to quote a text, we will use a text which is recognized, which is known, so that there is no disputing. There's no doubt what we've used has got some sort of veracity, and it's got some sort of there's a background there which people look at it and say, yeah, I recognize this source. The narration, for example, if we quote it, we'll try to work to ensure that it's authentic. That's the approach that we've taken, and we've always hoped that even if we've got very vociferous opponents, we would be hoping that they would be using the same modus operandi. So essentially, they would also be they could defend their beliefs and they could refute Shiism by quoting texts which are authentic, when chains are authentic. But unfortunately, we are seeing those now just happily just bringing a book out and quoting what they feel like. So obviously that is an area of concern, because if we use that methodology, then we could do a lot of things. But before I go into the topic itself, and I have to apologize, I've started ranting on because I was, thinking about this before we came on. I need to introduce the two brothers that are with me today. Brother Sayyid Zadi, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I must apologize. I started ranting and forgot to say salam to you straight away.
No
And of course, Sayyid Ali, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
The priest.
Indeed. Mr. Priest, how are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Exactly.
Pandit or
Exactly. Well, I do feel that unfortunately, when we have scenarios where you get an opposition which really can't properly respond to your argument, they can't really find a decent response to what you're saying, they then start resorting to these silly tactics where they'll start doing stupid. They'll get their buddies to open up websites. We know it's the same people, and they'll start drawing cartoons of you just to wind you up in a Hindu attire, or they'll start doing low-level pathetic games. And one of the things I've also noticed is it's like the Trump defense. What they need to do is they'll say, once we're in the corner, I'll tell you what, we need to put people off looking at the Shia side of things. So what we'll do is we'll convince them by saying, don't believe anything the Shia say, because whatever they say is a lie, because they almost have it embedded. It's almost like a screen process. Basically it'll be embedded on whatever materials that they produce. It'll be embedded it'll also appear on the tip of their tongue, the word taqiyya. It doesn't matter what a Shia says. Whatever he says is a lie. It is taqiyya. They operate on taqiyya, so you don't need to believe them. Brothers and sisters, if you want to know what taqiyya is, inshallah ta'ala, we will do a detailed program on that topic. So essentially, the reason why I've led into this today was because this is a topic that the dynamic duo from Bradford are particularly fond of. And that's one reason why we thought we would address it. As you know, we always open up our shows exposing one of their lies. I think we've done 4 so far. So this one is another one of their lies on the topic of taqiyya. What is taqiyya? Taqiyya means the concept of concealment, hiding your faith. Yep. And it obviously is linked to scenarios, it's linked to circumstances. For example, in the Quran, we have the example of taqiyya of Hazrat Ammar bin Yasir, who practiced taqiyya, faced with the oppression of his parents, who were the first shaheed in Islam. He hid his belief. What his actual beliefs were. He hid them and disassociated himself from the true faith. And there's a verse of the Quran which deals with that, and that's what essentially allows the practice of taqiyya. Whilst that merits a specific topic, a specific show, I think, say that it's important to. The reason I've said that, just as a brief summary, is because let's see exactly what the dynamic duo have said on taqiyya. Go for it, brother. Can you hear me, Sayyid Ali? Sayyid Ali?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Apologies. So yes, the topic of discussion is taqiyya, which is one of the most frequent slogans you will hear from our opponents. And in fact, this is nothing new. This was actually a trend from the Kharijis, who also the Khawarij were known for objecting to taqiyya. So as Sayyid Hassan mentioned, we will do a detailed topic. We will do a detailed show on this particular topic, but for now we're just going to respond very briefly. We're going to respond very briefly, in reference to this particular issue. So I'm going to share a clip now for our viewers to all see. Hassan Bahari, if you can just let me know once you do see it on my screen. Please bear with me a minute, I'll bring it up. Do you see my screen?
Yes, Sayyid, yeah.
Oh, brilliant, okay. Just let me know if the audio is clear or not, because... Just give me a second.
It's their own religion and their own books. Their 12 imams have clearly said that coming out and opening the religion of Shiaism and opening, the sect and their beliefs of the Rafidah, this is something because of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to disgrace them. This is their own books. So their whole, the backbone of Shiaism, what has kept Shiaism is to hide Shiaism. And I'll give you a few narrations just to prove that to you from their book that you've just been looking at, showing you, Usul al-Kafi. In Usul al-Kafi, one of their imams, Abu Abdullah, Ja'far al-Sadiq radiallahu ta'ala, who also we look at as a muqaddas personality and a respectful personality, but we don't look at him and give him, the status of an infallible divine imam that is appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does he say? Right? Allegedly, this is what he has said in Usul al-Kafi. Innakum ala dinin man katamahu. That you are upon such a religion. He's telling his own Shias. He's telling them, Innakum ala dinin man katamahu a'azzahu Allah. وَمَنْ أَذَاعَهُ أَذَلَّهُ اللَّهُ. That, oh my Shia, you are upon such a religion that if you hide this religion, then Allah will give you honor and esteem in the dunya. And whoever exposes this religion, then أَذَلَّهُ اللَّهُ. Allah will disgrace him. This is what Usul al-Kafi. There are many such narrations which encourage the Shia to hide their religion and not to expose the religion. So all those Shia, Blade Runner, or whoever it is, when they come into this path, they are actually making themselves mustahiq of the badwa of their own infallible Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq radiallahu ta'ala anh, because they are coming and they are opening their religion, and their religion should be hidden. Look, I'll give you another hadith from the Usul al-Kafi. It says again, Abu Abdullah Ja'far al-Sadiq radiallahu ta'ala, he says, قال لي ما زال سرنا مكتوما حتى صار في يدي ولد كيسان فتحدثوا به في الطريق وقرى السواد. Look at he says that Jafar al-Sadiq allegedly says that our issue and our religion was maktuman, it was all hidden until it came into the hands of the children of Kaysan, and they fatahaddathu bihi fi tariq, they began talking about it and they began discussing it, and this is how it all messed up. So like I said, according to Shia scriptures, these Shias who are coming and talking about their religion and imama and reviewing the Sahaba and opening their concept, this goes against the religion of Shiaism.
Okay, so that's the crux of the argument. Obviously, before we go into these particular traditions, Sayyid Zaidi, did you want to say anything about it?
We'll say it, inshallah. We'll go ahead with the answer that we have already prepared, but it's one of the objections that is brought by nearly everyone. And if you would go through the videos and links and the comments that people would leave, the anti-Shia comments, so usually, even if you're bringing the most authentic text, they would say, oh, he's talking taqiyya, so he might not be saying truth and whatnot. So, inshallah, I think the small answer we'll be giving will be answering a lot of their accusations, inshallah.
Sayyid Hassan, did you want to say anything on it? Sayyid Hassan?
I'll say.
You're kind of cutting off, Sayyid. I can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
You're coming through clear.
Yep. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was saying, so I think let's just start having that discussion now. Let's go through it and we can go along and sort of contribute together.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my screen and I'm going to present a document now for the viewers to see. So generally all Muslims, regardless of whatever school of thought you belong to, there's generally no objection with taqiyya. The dispute is how and when it's applied. So this particular individual, this sheikh, he mentioned the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and not actually looking at what the other imams of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam said and what our books of theology said. This is important. You know, as we mentioned at the start of the show, you know, if you're going to present any type of argument against your opponent, you have to be fair in your approach. You can't just pick up one or two traditions and read them and assume or even blatantly lie, as we have demonstrated in previous shows where we've showed where they've misquoted Shia books, and we're still waiting for a response on these issues. We're yet to wait. We're yet to hear from them. We've not heard nothing. Even our previous episodes, we presented numerous evidences. And again, we always say that if we've made a mistake, then we stand corrected. But then demonstrate what our mistakes are. Show us the evidences from your side to prove that what we're saying about you are lies and not true. So nevertheless, this particular issue about taqiyya, as I said before, Muslims generally don't have an issue with it, but it's how it's applied. It has circumstances. It's not just just because Muslims believe in taqiyya, it's something that can be applied at all times, and there's not conditions to it. So the first reference I want to bring is from Sheikh Saduq, and this particular passage is quite interesting because it often gets quoted by our opponents, but they don't understand what other scholars have said about this particular statement and how they've explained it, how they've given exegesis on this. And obviously, we are going to come to the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam to demonstrate that taqiyya is not something which is obligatory at all times. So the first passage is from Sheikh Saduq, and this is from his famous book, the Book of Creed. So if you want to learn about Shia creed, definitely refer to the book of Sheikh Saduq. And it's got many different chapters on a variety of subjects. And interestingly, one of the accusations brought by our opponents is that Shias believe in tahrif of the Quran. Sheikh Saduq actually has a particular chapter on the Quran, the Holy Quran, in this book, which again, our opponents should go back. And when you're going to quote this book, you might want to have a look at what the other chapters say as well about our beliefs. So Sheikh Saduq says concerning taqiyya, and he says, our belief concerning taqiyya, dissimulation, is that it's wajib. that it's obligatory. And he who forsakes it is in the same position as the one who forsakes prayer. So taqiyya in itself is something so important that it's considered to be something which is obligatory within the religion. And it's equivalent to the act of prayer. And as we know, there are certain acts which are considered to be compulsory, but not mentioned in the Holy Quran. A prime example is, for example, the issue of growing the beard. You know, there's mention of the beard in the Quran, just mention of it, but it doesn't give the actual hukam and ruling in terms of, you know, how one should keep it or the length, etc., etc. And that's when we turn to the Hadith of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. Whether you want to, you know, depend on the Sunni corpus of Hadith, or whether you want to depend on the Shia Hadith literature, there are many acts which, as Muslims, we consider to be, you know, recommended, or at least wajib, which have not always been mentioned in the Holy Quran. So as you can see, Sheikh Suduk, he presents what taqiyya is, and he mentioned the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and he continues and he talks about how there's a particular individual who is openly and abusing the enemies of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, or the Ahl al-Bayt, and he's calling out their names. And in this, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam reprimanded him, and he said, may Allah curse him, why does he refer to us? And you know, it continues. So this whole chapter here is dedicated to taqiyya. I'm not going to read it all out. The viewers can always go back and have a read of it. And this is from his famous book of Creed, in his book I'tiqad, and it's in page number 107 to 110. So, you know, as I said before, you can always go back and have a read. Now, further to this, is what's interesting is what Sheikh Mufid says. So Sheikh Mufid gives a commentary of this particular book. Just like many Sunni books, you have, like, for example, the famous Aqidah Wasatiyah, and as you know, numerous scholars have given the sharh to it, they've given the commentary to it. So Sheikh Mufid has given his commentary to the statement of Sheikh Suduk, and he elaborates further what he means by something which is considered to be obligatory. So Sheikh Mufid says on dissimulation, taqiyya, and he mentions Abu Ja'far, which was a title for Sheikh Suduk. May Allah be pleased with him. Pleased with both of them. Under the chapter of taqiyya, he says, Sheikh Mufid says, dissimulation is disguising the truth and concealing belief therein. And then he continues and he says, it is, okay, here, it is wajib. It's only wajib when injury is absolute certain. So, for example, if a Muslim is under duress, if they feel as if the life's being threatened, and there's a particular individual who comes to them and he says, look, are you Muslim? And they know that their life is at risk here. Okay, so in this particular situation, Sheikh Mufid says it is wajib to protect one's life. However, what we need to understand here, it's not a necessary obligation even then, because we do know from history, for example, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he didn't do taqiyya to protect his life, because at that time his sacrifice was needed, because the falsehood had reached to such a pinnacle that his martyrdom, in order for truth to be known, he had to sacrifice himself in order to distinguish between what's right and wrong, the truth from falsehood. So Sheikh Mufid continues and he says, but if it was not certain or obvious that harm would result from disclosing the truth, nor was the presumption strong, then dissimulation is not wajib. So it's not compulsory at all times. Then he continues and he says, the truthful ones, the Imams alayhi salam, have ordered a certain group of their followers not only to refrain and cease from demonstrating the truth. So this is the first group of followers of the Imams, the companions. So some particular individuals were told to refrain from demonstrating the truth, but also to veil and conceal it from the enemies of the religion, and to appear to them in such a way as to dispel the doubts during the disputation with them, since this was in their best interest. So at that particular time, a certain group of companions of the Imams of the Ahl al-Bayt, under the circumstances they were living, because we have to understand, when we look at history, many of the Imams of the Alayhi Islam were practically put in prison. They were, you know, they faced tough times, they faced tough situations, and it was not easy for them to go out openly and teach the religion. So we see, in one hand, one group of companions had to conceal certain information. But what's interesting is what Sheikh Mufid says after. He says, whereas they commanded another group of their followers to dispute with their opponents and divulge their true doctrine to them and invite them to embrace the truth, since they knew that no harm would befall them. Hence, dissimulation is wajib in the case we have put forward, whereas the obligation is removed in other cases, as we have demonstrated above. So as you can see, this particular sheikh, who's obviously gone to Speaker's Corner, who's picked up these Shia traditions, has absolutely no knowledge on this particular issue. He is either intentionally trying to deceive the masses by claiming that taqiyya is something which the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt always instructed at all times, and Shias were prohibited from even going out and teaching the religion. And this is something which is far from the truth, as I've demonstrated from these two quotes. And as I said to you before, by all means, you can always go back and read the statement of Sheikh Mufid. And it continues, and this was on his commentary on I'tiqad al-Imamiyya, page 136 to page 137. There's a scan for our viewers to see, and I'll stop it. Oh, there you go. So yeah, these are the scans, and now we can go into the traditions, inshallah. So inshallah, Sayyid Hassan, if you can come on and you can read some of the hadith of the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, who've also demonstrated.
Yes.
Unlike
Okay.
this dishonest individual who failed to mention these very traditions that are also mentioned in the book of Al-Ghafi.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. I'll do that. So, I mean, I think I won't go through the chain of narrators, because obviously we're trying to be a bit stricter on time today. So just to be clear that we won't have a question and answer session afterwards on this occasion. So the first tradition that I'm just going to go through, Khalid Shalnula, who has said the following: once I said to Abu Ja'far al-Thani II, may Allah keep my soul in your service. Our sheikhs have narrated hadiths from Imam Abu Ja'far, from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and that taqiyya, fear, was severe. They concealed their books and did not narrate from them. When they died, their books came to us. The Imam said, you may narrate from them, they contain the truth. So that's from Surah, Surah Al-Kafi, Volume 1, Hadith number 153, Chapter 17, page 39. So as you can see, we have a context that at that time, their elders, they possessed certain books, but they were kept under the taqiyya due to the circumstances that the people lived in. And now the situation has changed because the Imam of the time has said, now you can narrate from them. So it's all to do with, it's all circumstantial. That's the thing with when one half of the dynamic duo is saying, oh, it's permanent no matter what. That is absolute nonsense. Had he bothered looking at these narrations, he would have seen the reality. The next narration comes from Zurara, from Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, who said that the following: taqiyya, al-taqiyya, is for when and wherever needed, and the one involved in it knows best how to apply it. So that's from Surah Al-Kafi, Volume 2, Hadith number 2242, Chapter 93. Again, it's very, very clear. Think of it carefully. Al-taqiyya is for when and wherever needed, and the one who involved in it knows best. So it's a very subjective thing. It's how the person living in that time, in those circumstances, deems the need to live. So if he thinks taqiyya is for his survival, it's for his benefit, he can operate it. And it's subjective. So one person might deem taqiyya necessary, another person might not. Next narration. This comes from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Once Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and this is from Surah Al-Kafi as well, Hadith number 2244, Chapter 93. Once Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, the recipient of the Supreme Covenant, said to me, what was it that prevented Maytham, may Allah grant him blessings, from al-taqiyya? He said, by Allah, he knew that this verse of the Holy Quran was revealed about Ammar and his people. So there's a verse which deals with taqiyya, unless he is forced, but his heart is confident with belief. So that's 16, verse number 106. So again, it's to do with the context. So how you find yourself in the situation, do you need to use it? Yes or no? That's down to you. We have another narration, also from Rasul al-Kafi. And in this narration, once I said, this is a conversation with Imam Bakr alayhi salam. He said, two of the people of Kufa were held, and it was said to them, denounce Amir al-Mu'mineen. One of them did, and the other did not denounce him. The one who denounced him was released, and the other was killed. The Imam said, the one who denounced was an expert of law of his religion, and the one who did not denounce was in a hurry to go to paradise. So that narration is in from Rasul al-Kafi, Hadith 2250, chapter 93, Hadith number 21. So as you can see, dear viewers, taqiyya isn't like in tablets of stone that you can only operate it, you have to permanently use it. It's not wajib upon the Shias to use it all the time. The Imams have been very clear, it's all subjective, it's circumstantial. Do you need it? It's up to me. It's down to me whether I think it's useful for me now, or if it's not, then you don't operate it at all. But what these traditions, they effectively take the wind out the sails of the first half of the dynamic duo, who essentially sought to mislead people by saying taqiyya's always there. Yeah.
There's many narrations like this. In fact, there's certain circumstances where taqiyya is forbidden. For example, I believe the wiping of the socks. I think you can do taqiyya on that. I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty certain we have traditions that actually mention that. So as you can see, there's a lot of dishonesty going on here. He's being very disingenuous, he's being very dishonest, and being very selective in his reading, because on one hand you want to portray Shia as a constantly doing taqiyya, but you know, firstly we need to ask ourselves why we were put in that situation to begin with. You know, let's be realistic. You know, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was in an extremely difficult situation during his lifetime, especially during the life of the Sahaba, as you mentioned the case of Ammar ibn Yasir. And at the time, who were the opponents? They were the mushrikeen and the munafiqeen. They were the staunch opponents of the Sahaba and the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Just like in this day and age, we have staunch opponents of the Shias, which in certain circumstances, they have to adopt the taqiyya in order to survive. But
absolutely.
Again, circumstances not necessary, and it's not always done at all times. So, say Zeddy, I don't know if you want to say anything on this.
Yes, Sayed. It all depends upon situation to situation, right? There are ahkamat and there are rulings within the Sharia, which is subjective. Like it depends upon the urf, it depends upon the common perception of the person of the situation to which it needs to be applied. So there isn't a hukm kulli, as you would say, or there isn't any general ruling that you would say, oh, taqiyya, everyone has to do taqiyya. Like no one is an exception. No, obviously it depends from place to place, from situation to situation, right? And as we have mentioned, the hadith clearly mentions too, like we always have two sets of people within the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Some would do the taqiyya, some won't do the taqiyya, and the rulings were different based upon a different situation, right? So yeah.
And just on a quick note as well, I know it's slightly going off topic here, but you know, because of taqiyya as well, many of our reports, we did have conflicting reports, and some of our authors, they did try to reconcile the situation. But this is not something which, even within Sunni scholarship, they should be alienated to it, because even their own scholars have written books where they've tried to reconcile traditions. And we've, you know, there's even like authentic traditions, for example, just in Bukhari alone, where we can demonstrate two so-called Sahih traditions, yet the information contradict each other, or at least they don't agree with each other. So, you know, this is in reference to Hadith that has been transmitted to us. And again, this is, as I've mentioned before, this is a big topic, and the Imams of Islam have actually explained under what, you know, how do we accept these reports. They've actually given us the sciences to explain how, you know, how we, whether to accept these reports and reject them. But, you know, we didn't want to go too much into detail into this particular issue, because there are hundreds of reports like this about, you know, being taqiyya being taqiyya being circumstantial and so forth, etc., etc. So now, you know, we've dealt with the Shia aspect of it.
Say before we proceed, I think there is one point you mentioned, and obviously that wasn't part of answer that we were preparing, right? Gangohi was asked about is it halal to eat crow, and if someone would eat crow, the meat of a crow, would they be given thawab from Allah? Would they be rewarded from Allah if they do it? So Gangohi replied, yeah, if someone does it in India, like that's not verbatim reply, but I'm just paraphrasing it. If someone does it in a situation where people usually deem it haram or people usually don't eat it, if he's eating crow, the meat of a crow, then Allah will be rewarding him. Now, should I ask the Deobandis and the listeners that would you consider eating the meat of a crow as thawab? Like, do you have like a crow biryani, like a crow korma, something like this? Obviously, you would say no. It was a really situational fatwa from Gangohi because at that time it used to be a really taboo thing to even discuss these things, let alone eating it. So if Gangohi can guarantee from Allah that okay, there will be a thawab from Allah eating crow, then I think it just tells you that a lot of things that we have in Shariat and in fiqh, it has to do with situations too. Like it's not like a black and white thing. Oh, it's haram till day of Qiyamah. It's wajib till day of Qiyamah. It depends. Like what situation are we in? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think now we can inshallah go into the Sunni tradition, which are generally carried by the Sunni masses, regardless of what school of thought you belong to. We're only going to present a few examples because, you know, this is a big topic, but I think, you know, it should be suffice. Where we present should be sufficient. And obviously, if anyone has an objection to it, then by all means, they're welcome to, you know, bring evidence against it. So, Sayyid Zaidi, if you could, inshallah, just start with what their scholars have said about taqiyya dissimulation in their theology and in their books of Hadith.
Yes. So should I read Arabic first?
If you can start with the Tafsir Ruhul Mani by Baghdadi, what he says about taqiyya, and then inshallah I'll read English.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Allama Alusi al-Baghdadi is a famous Sunni scholar. He has written a Tafsir Ruh al-Ma'ani fi Tafsir al-Quran. So Ruh al-Ma'ani, to be precise, he says وفي الآية دليل على مشروعية التقية وعرفوها بمحافظة النفس أو العرض أو المال من شر الأعداء. والعدو قسمان: الأول من كانت عداوته مبنية على اختلاف الدين كالكافر والمسلم، والثاني من كانت عداوته مبنية على أغراض الدنيوية كالمال والمتاع والملك والإمارة. Yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
So he says, this verse, Surah 3, verse 28, let not the believers take disbelievers as allies rather than the believers, and whoever of you does that has nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except when taking precaution against them in prudence. And Allah warns you of himself, and to Allah is the final destination. So this particular verse, as you can see, it generally prohibits Muslims from making friendship with those who are considered to be disbelievers. So the commentary of this particular verse, what he says, he says this verse, because obviously if you take this verse at face value, then you'd have to distance yourself from everybody who's not practically Muslim. So he says this verse contains proof regarding the permissibility of taqiyya. Scholars have defined taqiyya as to protect one's life, property and honor from evil of the enemy, and the enemy of two kinds. One that is based on the difference in religion, such as between a non-believer and a Muslim. And the second type of enmity is due to worldly affairs, such as wealth, possession, and sovereignty and leadership. So he demonstrates the two forms of taqiyya in reference to this particular verse of the Holy Quran. So that's from Tafsir al-Mani from volume 2, page 479. There's a scan for viewers, and there's a particular reference just there. And we can go inshallah to the next one. Sayyid Zaidi, go ahead.
Yes, Sayyid. So the second one is from Allama Hafidh ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Hafidh al-Dunya, as they say. And he is a really learned scholar. He says in Fath al-Bari, it's a commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari. He says, so we will be discussing about the narration, you would say, from Hassan al-Basri, and the topic from Sahih al-Bukhari, the permissibility of taqiyya. But just want to highlight what Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says about taqiyya, what exactly taqiyya is. He says, Bismillah, وَمَعْنَ التَّقِيَّةِ الْحَذَرُ مِنْ إِظْهَارِ مَا فِي النَّفْسِ مِنْ مُعْتَقِدٍ وَغَيْرِ لِلْغَيْرِ وَأَصْلُهُ وَقْيَةٌ بِوَزْنِ حَمْزَةٍ فَعْلَةٌ مِنَ الْوِقَايَةِ. So yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
So he says, I say that the meaning of taqiyya is to be cautious of revealing that which is in one's mind regarding one's belief and practices in front of others. Quite interesting, guys.
Yes, Sayyid. Exactly. I think, Sayyid, to be honest, like I have seen their learned scholars, they don't have a problem with taqiyya, honestly. Like usually they would say, oh, taqiyya is allowed in Ahl Sunnah too, taqiyya is allowed within the Shia Islam too. So there isn't much difference. I think it's usually the people that are not knowledgeable that accuses Shias.
Actually, I would disagree with that. And the reason why I would disagree with that, they do have certain aspects of taqiyya which, according to us, it would not be permitted. For example, I remember a statement of Ibn Taymiyyah in his...
Sayyid Hassan, can you turn off your mic, please?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so
yes,
I remember a particular statement. You know, you said that, okay, our concept of taqiyya and their concept is pretty much identical. I slightly disagree with that on the basis that I have come across certain circumstances where they permit taqiyya, but according to our school of thought, it's not permitted. For example, Ibn Taymiyyah gives in his, I think it's in his, it might be in his Mujam al-Fatawa. Actually, is a Mujam al-Fatawa, and he says, for example, that one is even permitted to bow down to an idol, and in order to protect one's life. So in a certain circumstances like that, you know, definitely, you know, our scholars would not permit this type of taqiyya. So yes, they do have certain aspects of taqiyya, which, according to our school, is something which is prohibited to some extent. But anyway,
Sayyid, what I meant by this is that I understand what you're saying, but what I meant by it is that the concept of taqiyya itself, we're not going to the masadiq. The masadiq means the situations in which they will allow and we won't allow it, right? Or we would allow it, they won't allow it, kind of thing. But the asal concept or the real concept of taqiyya is muttafaqun alayh bayna sunnah wa shi'a. Yani there is no ikhtilaf between them as if taqiyya is allowed or not, right? But it's only the juhla, it's only the ignorant people among them that have real problem with it. As if like taqiyya is a really exclusive Shia thing, and which is not as you would have seen. Anyway, so yes, Sadat, go ahead.
So, inshallah, we'll continue now. And again, this is from Sahih Bukhari. I'm going to just read the English.
Yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
The scan is there anyway. It's the English and Arabic provided shortly. I just noticed I didn't include the scan to Ibn Hajar Asqalani's Fath al-Bari in the previous reference, but not an issue. If anybody needs that, by all means, leave a comment in the video, and inshallah, something we can provide for you later on. So, Al-Bukhari, Muhammad ibn Ismail Bukhari, he says in book 89, the book of Al-Iqra, coercion, saying something under compulsion. And he quotes 2 verses of the Holy Quran. Along that, he says, Al-Bukhari says, and this is taqiyya. So he uses those 2 verses of the Holy Quran, which all Muslims are obliged to believe in, by the way, which if we are taught to believe in the verses of the Quran, obviously we would consider that to be a natural obligation. So he uses these 2 verses and he says, these verses, they prove taqiyya. Then he quotes another verse of the Holy Quran, quotes another verse of the Holy Quran, and then he says, so Allah excused the weak who cannot refuse from leaving what Allah has enjoined on him. the coerced person cannot be but weak and unable to refuse to do what he's ordered to do so. And then he gives a very interesting statement from Hassan al-Basri. And he says, Hassan al-Basri said, "At-Taqiyya, i.e. speaking against one's own belief, lest his opponents put him in great danger, will remain till day of resurrection." So this is very similar to the Hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam in al-Kafi, where the Imam of the Ahl Bayt said that Taqiyya will remain till the day of judgment. And this was also the belief of Al-Hasan al-Basri, where he said that Taqiyya will remain till the day of judgment. And then Ibn Abbas said that if thieves compel someone to divorce his wife, the divorce would not be valid. And Ibn Zubair and some other, Tabi'i, they had this position. And the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, said in a famous hadith, one's deeds are to be considered according to one's intentions. And this is from Sahih Bukhari, volume 9, book 89, page 58. And there's the front cover of Bukhari. And there's the reference that was read. And again, Bukhari is available online from sunnah.com. It's available in PDF version as well. So it's something you can always go back to. And it says here, Al-Hasan al-Basri said, Taqiyya will remain till the day of resurrection. And it's something which is part and parcel of the belief.
Say one point that I want to discuss here is that there might be a difference between someone saying taqiyya as wajib, someone might be saying taqiyya as mustahab, someone might be saying taqiyya as mubah, right? There are always 5 rulings for everything that we do, right? Thing is that we don't have a problem if someone is just saying, oh, it is mubah only, you Shia says it's wajib. Just saying as an argument here. Thing is that the major difference would come in that is if you would be saying an haram and we'd be saying it wajib. Like we say that wiping our feet is wajib when we do our wudu, and you say it haram. That there is a major difference here. We won't do a munadhara, we won't do a debate, or we won't do a discussion if you say, oh, it's allowed, and we say, oh, it's wajib. You know, there can still be some sort of debate in it, but unless until we do agree that there is some asal in the sharia, there is asal in the deen, then it is okay. Like, let me quote you one thing that I'm like within the Hanfi school of thought, they say the salatul witr is wajib, you know, and they say the salatul witr is 3 rak'ah, like it's 3 rak'ah, the one that they would pray at the night time. For the other school of thought, like Hanbali, Maliki, and Shawafi, and other, the Jamhur of the majority of the scholars, they said no, Salatul Witr is not wajib, and you can read it like 1 rakah is okay. Some say 3, some say 5. So it depends, right? So now the discussion won't be about the Salatul Witr, like is it allowed to pray Salatul Witr, or what about Salatul Witr, is it wajib or not? Like, I usually don't see Hanfis and other school of thought debating and, you know, saying each other as fasiq or kafir because of this concept. They say, yeah, for some it's wajib, the others say, yeah, it's recommended, it's okay to pray. So this is the same thing. Like, right now, we are not showing you as taqiyya as a wajib thing or not. That's a separate discussion. Right now, we are just showing you that it has asal in your madhab, asal in your deen. That's it, right? Yeah, whether it's mubah, wajib, mustahab, it's a separate discussion. Unless until you believe it's mubah, that's it. Khalas. You know, because the way you are accusing us of taqiyya, it's a really, really haram thing to do. And we Shias consider it as the awjab al-wajibat, like the most important thing in our life. And that's why, you see, like, I'm just going through the mindset of a layperson right now. Scholars know, okay, it's okay to do. Shias believe that, yeah, it's really highly recommended, sometimes wajib. That's a separate discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Sayyid.
In fact, we should very easily be asking them the same question. I mean, as we mentioned at the start of the show, you know, if they cannot respond to the issue, they use other means to try to divert the attention. Oh, this person said this, or they do taqiyya. But in reality, we can very easily play these ridiculous, childish games where we can ask you the same thing. Why do you guys do taqiyya?
Say it simple. Eating crow, is it mustahab or is it mubah? Like, as per Deobandi, it's mustahab. As per Gangohi,
mustahab, yeah.
right? Mustahab. That's why he said Allah will be rewarding him, right? Now, if the two Deobandis are fighting, oh, is it mubah or is it mustahab? It's a ridiculous debate. Haji, is it allowed or not? That's it. That should be the debate. It shouldn't be, oh, mustahab and mubah. You fighting, it should be mustah, it's mubah. Yeah, there are differences among, if we are quoting the differences among scholars, some are saying it's wajib and others are saying it's mubah, others are saying mustahab, will be a long discussion. We can do 50,000 shows on it.
Absolutely.
You know, so unless until it's mubah, you don't have any argument against us saying, oh, you consider it wajib, and Sunni belief it's mubah only, because this is another accusation they bring in usually. And this is the thing we'll be addressing. This thing we'll be addressing, inshallah,
in the future,
inshallah. in future, inshallah. But just a side point, I think it was important to bring this thing up.
Okay, so I'm going to finish off with one more quote. I believe this is the last one. This is from Ibn Hajar Asqalani from his Fath al-Bari, volume 16, page 213 to 214. So he gives a commentary to that particular chapter. I think it was chapter 81. He says, al-Bukhari's statement where he quotes the verse of the Holy Quran, except if you indeed fear a danger from them. And this is taqiyya, and he has taken it from the statement of Ubaidah, who said, tuqat and taqiyya is the same. Ibn Hajar says, and passed in the commentary of Surah Al-Imran, and the meaning of this verse, the believers shall not take the unbelievers as friends, neither in hidden nor in public, except for taqiyya. So it's permissible to take him as a friend if he fears him and hates him in his heart. So, you know, this is quite interesting because it kind of opens up the whole issue about how Imam Ali alayhi salam, or, you know, one of the objections they kind of bring up with Imam Ali alayhi salam is, oh, why did he behave this way? Well, Imam Ali alayhi salam, the line of God, you know, these emotional type of objections. But in reality, it's something which is perfectly acceptable and valid, and it has an asl according to the Holy Quran, it has a basis. So yeah, this is the final reference which I wanted to read, and this is from. There's a standard.
Just a small correction. What it should be volume number 12.
Volume 12?
Might be a typo thing, but it's volume number 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Volume number 12. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's mentioned here at the bottom. Jild 12. Yeah, so it's volume 12. So yeah, the cover is there as well, and inshallah we can go to today's topic. I think that kind of wraps up the whole issue about taqiyya and you know.
And Sayyid, it was a really important topic to bring up, honestly. And taqiyya is something that they are always accusing us of doing taqiyya, right? But honestly, again, I'm saying we will be doing a detailed show. It's such a long and huge topic. But now, if you go through Islamic folk videos, right, they are quoting from Bukhari and from their books saying, oh, you guys have taqiyya too. Why you are just criticizing Shias for it now? Like sometimes.
Absolutely.
And then they don't have an answer to it. Oh, we mean taqiyya by this, and Shias have a different thing. You know, like those games. That's why it was important to bring what Alusi said about taqiyya, what taqiyya means, and what Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, what he defines as taqiyya. Because it's not a rocket science. Taqiyya is same for both you and us. We define the same way, you define the same way too.
Absolutely. So that leads us into the next subject. Are we ready to talk about today's show?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Well, it is the blessed month of Rabiul Awwal. So it is a month in which we commemorate the birthday of the seal of all prophets, Blessed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a time when Muslims gather together in their mosques, in their centers, and partake in joyous celebrations. They'll read eulogies in praise of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. They will have food. It's a common, particularly, I mean, I would say all over the Middle East, all over the world. But I mean, the three of us are we're from the Indian subcontinent, and we would know that it is a very common phenomenon. Whether you're Sunni or Shia, it is a month in which they are festive. It's called Mawlid, Milad, al-Nabi, are held in people's houses, in centers, in mosques, in commemoration of the birthday of the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, and his family. Now, whilst traditionally, this has gone, it's not like a new thing, it's not something that was started last week. This has gone on for centuries. These types of celebrations and the general consensus, there's not really been much opposition to it. You do get the odd vocal sort of opponents, and in this day and age, you can't get anyone more vocal than the Deobandis. Our friends, the dynamic duos, are from that sect, who find it doesn't sit with them properly having these types of celebrations. They deem it an innovation. So essentially, what we're going to talk about today is, really, is this correct? Did the Deobandis of the past also believe this? Or is this also a new innovation? What's the reality? What's the real position of the Deobandis on this? Sayyid, Sayyid, can you please put the video clip up, please?
Sorry, in reference to...
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I thought we've got a specific one. We will be discussing that later.
As you mentioned, generally the Muslims throughout the centuries have not really had an issue with it as such.
No, there's been no controversy over it. So essentially, in this day and age, the Deobandis from the Indian subcontinent are particularly vociferous against it. And what we thought, if you look into it, you'll see a very different position.
On some occasions, I mean, there was an incident, I believe, last week where there was a bomb blast, a suicide attack.
That's correct.
Yeah, in Afghanistan, yes, Sayyid. Yeah, and just to connect it, like in Karachi, it happened like a few years back, like where the procession ends of the people that are celebrating Mawlid, they were having speeches and they were sitting on the stage, and there was a bomb blast that took place in Karachi. Similarly, in Faisalabad, a few years back, there were disputes between the Deobandi school of thought and the people that celebrate Milad. Obviously, the dispute was on Mawlud, the procession that people take out for Mawlud purposes, right? So it's just not like a theoretical thing, has gone beyond theory now, and it's more like a terrorism issue now, like people celebrating versus people that are not celebrating and that are against people that are celebrating. So
absolutely, those that celebrate, these individuals deem it permissible to shed their blood, and unfortunately, many of those, particularly in the Indian subcontinent in Pakistan, we could say, those which oppose these sort of gatherings are from the Deobandi sect, and those that attack those gatherings, whether that be in Afghanistan, whether it's done by the Taliban in Afghanistan, or it's done by groups such as Sipai Sahaba or other sort of different names, that's also done by Deobandis as well. So there is this commonality that those that oppose these Mawluds, we're not saying all Deobandis are terrorists, no, not at all, but such is the hatred towards people that partake in it. You get extremism amongst their followers who end up then trying to prevent these type of celebrations by killing those that get involved in it.
You know what would be interesting though is to find out what these particular sheikhs, what their view is about those individuals who go and attack these processions and kill innocent people, and what their position is about those individuals, or will they do taqiyya here and actually hide away what they really believe?
Yeah, absolutely. Or even the concept of these milads themselves. What are their positions? Are people that partake in those, are they Muslim? Are they innovators? What are they? And when those people from your sect attack those people, why are they attacking them? Do they do them as non-Muslims? What's the situation? But obviously that's for them to enlighten us on. Let's just focus on the topic at hand a little bit further. Sayyid Ali, I think we're essentially now talking. Do you want to expand on it a bit further?
Yeah, I mean, today we're not going to discuss why a certain group of Muslims do believe in the permissibility. I think today we're going to primarily focus on the heritage of Milad, and how their elders, the founding fathers, were practically celebrating it.
Yeah.
Over time, you know, it kind of got to this level where they're now attacking it, you know.
Yeah.
Say it. Sorry to disturb. Here is a point here. Wallah, like the people know that when we were thinking about how to approach the series, right? The Mawlud and Deobandis wasn't even a topic that we wanted to have. Like it wasn't even there. It just came in because it's month of Rabiul Awwal, right? And people celebrate Mawlud, right? So they want, like, as a team of like from Betul Ghadeer, we always wanted to, have some relevance to our topic too. That's why we brought up this topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while we were researching this topic, it is, alhamdulillah, we find it really relevant to the topic that we're discussing right now nowadays, right? Which is about Deobandis and the Tawheen that they have done to Anbiya. Like, and this topic, inshallah, when you go through it, you will see like what kind of hatred they have with the dhikr of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, inshallah, when we'll be going through the fatwas, right? And it is relevant to Mawlud. At the same time, it is relevant to the Tawheen of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way they do. So yeah, go ahead, say it.
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm gonna present a document now, inshallah, for the viewers to see. And if I could request Sayyid Zaidi to perhaps read the Urdu, so there's no nothing's hidden, so the Urdu speaking audience understand it. And of course, Sayyid Hassan, if you can read the English, would be great.
Okay.
Sayyid, before we do that, I just need to give an introduction. It won't be in the document until you are, inshallah, finalizing the document. Thing is that the fatwa that we'll be quoting initially will be from Haji Imdadullah Muhajir Makki. Now, we have discussed Haji Saab is called Ala Hazrat within the Deoband school of thought. Like for Brelvis, it's Ala Hazrat Ahmad Raza Khan Saab, and for Deobandis, it's Ala Hazrat Haji Imdadullah Muhajir Makki. So he is teacher of Gangohi, he's the teacher of Thanwi, and he is a really respected figure within the Deoband school of thought. We went through it last time too, and again we have to go through it again because he's just not a normal figure. Like nothing like a Tom, Dick, Harry that we're quoting right now. He is Marja'ul Khalaiq, as you could say, of Deoband school of thought. And inshallah, when we will be quoting it, it will have a really, it is a really strong reference. Because if Deobandi school of thought takes their tariqat, if Deobandi school of thought takes their spirituality from this Maulana, then I think they should also take the same Mawlud thing, that Mawlud fatwa that Imdadullah Muhajir Makki has given. And they should be fair in their assessment and what they take from someone. So, Sayyid, it's your document ready, Sayyid?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to go. Inshallah, the viewers should see the screen. And the screen is there.
Yeah, so if you read Urdu, then I'll translate it. Yeah?
Yes, Sayyid. So let me go through it. So Haji Imdadullah Muhajir Makki, in here, in the book Shama'im Imdadiyya, page number 50 says, Farmaya, which is what Haji Saab said. हमारे उलमा मौलूद शरीफ में बहुत तनाज़ा करते हैं, ताहम उलमा जवाज़ की तरफ भी गए. जब सूरत जवाज़ की मौजूद है, फिर क्यों ऐसा तशद्दुद करते हैं? और हमारे वास्ते इत्बाए हरमैन काफ़ी है. अलबत्ता वक्त क़याम के एतक़ाद तवल्लुद का ना करना चाहिए, और अगर एहतिमाल तशरीफ़ आवरी का किया जाए तो मुज़ायका नहीं. इलल आखिर. Yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
Okay, so our scholars cause a lot of quarrel on the Noble Maulud issue. Yet, however, many scholars have upheld its permissibility. When there is a perspective of its permissibility, then why are they so extreme? And imitating the Haraman is sufficient proof for us. Yet, however, one should not in Qiyam have the belief that the Prophet is being born. If one considers that he may possibly attend the gathering, there is no harm in this, since the realm of creation, Alam al-Khalq, is restricted in time and place. Restricted in time and place, whereas the realm of the souls is free of this. If he wants to come, it's not from his blessed person to do so. It's not far from his blessed person to do so. Okay?
Yes, Sayyid. So he's not only about talking Mawlud. He's like, it is really clear he's giving permissibility to celebrate it, but he's also saying it is possible for Prophet
To
to
be
in
there.
his to be there spiritually. So like usually they have the problem, oh, you have the belief that Prophet would come in the majlis of Mawlud. Yeah,
Yeah.
as a possibility, it is really possible. This
Yeah.
is the same thing what Haji Sahab says
Yeah.
in Shamaim Imdadiya. So Sayyid, let's go to the second reference, and this reference will be really connected to our topic of taqiyya too. Now remember, Ashraf Ali Thanvi, who is called Hakimul Ummat of Deobandism, he says like he used to celebrate Mawlud, right? But albeit in a taqiyya way. So
Nothing. Can you mute your
Mm.
microphone? I can hear some sort of boxing going on. You ain't got you're not watching the rematch of the replay of the Fury fight, are you?
No. Not to. Oh, the TV's okay. Sorry. Yeah. Carry on.
so Ashraf Thanvi celebrated Mawlud, right? And once he did, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi severely criticized him for doing that. So now he replies. So everything, like there are some letters. There are a lot of not a lot of letters, but there are some letters that are present in a book called Tadhkiratul Rashid, volume number 1, page number 135, and it is authored by. Actually, it's a really old book. So it is on Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. So Ashraf Thanvi, when he got the news Ashraf Thanvi used to celebrate, so he criticized him, and then this is what Ashraf Thanvi replied. He says, "मगर पूरी मुखालिफत के क़याम दुश्वार है." Like he was living in Kanpur. Kanpur is a city in northern India, and he was saying that to live in the city without celebrating Mawlud is really difficult. Like Sayyid will go through the translation. So he's just celebrating Mawlud. Why? Because people used to do so. Right? You get my point, right? So he says, "मगर पूरी मुखालिफत के करके क़याम दुश्वार है, गो अब भी यहाँ के बाज़ उलमा मुझको वहाबी कहते हैं, और बाज़ बैरूनी उलमा भी यहाँ आकर लोगों को समझा गए कि ये शख्स वहाबी है और इसके धोखे में मत आना, मगर चूंकि मिन वजह अवाम से मुवाफ़क़त अमली थी, इसलिए किसी की बात ना चली। अब चूंकि शिरकत अमली का भी इरादा नहीं, तो दिक्कतें ज़रूर पेश आवेंगी." Yes, I go through the translation, then I have a small note. Yeah, go through it.
Although some scholars here, although some scholars here regard me, Thanvi, as a Wahhabi, and some scholars from outside also have told people here not to be deceived by this man, Thanvi, for he's a Wahhabi, but it did not have any effect, for I have been practically cooperating with the public.
So, 1 second. Cooperating with the public means that whatever public used to do in terms of going to Mawlud, in terms of going to these majalis, he would also go.
He's lucky that he was celebrating Christmas at the time.
Yeah, Sayyid. So in order to have a positive image within the people in Kanpur, he would go and celebrate Mawlud, right? Yeah, so go ahead.
Okay, but now that I intend not to cooperate, even in a practical sort of way, I should expect to face some difficulty.
So here we have two things. He used to celebrate it. Now I don't know why he would do it. There are only two possibilities. Either he would do on account of taqiyya, that he used to deem it haram, but just because he wanted to have a soft image within the public, he would do it. Second is that he used to believe in the permissibility of doing it. Right? If he, as a giant figure for such a long, would do it, and then he said, "No, I'm just going against my view," right? Wouldn't it tell you something? Like people that are celebrating are fasik, mubtadi', fulan. So we can say Thanvi for a good number of years was a mubtadi' and fasik too.
But then they probably would deem it, because I remember listening to some speech some time back, and I actually remember this particular Deobandi cleric, and he actually compared it to alcohol. He said, look, in one stage of Islam, alcohol was allowed, and later it was forbidden. So based on that principle, assuming that, astaghfirullah, we would compare celebrating or, remembering the birth of the Holy Prophet with the act of alcohol, essentially, these particular individuals like Thanvi, would be like some sort of prophets then, because if something is once again permitted in Sharia according to them, but later forbidden, then based on the same principles, Tanvi is a prophet, because look,
this is even a bigger problem, Sayyid. If he brings this argument, then either he's a prophet, then he would deem يعني يحلل أي شيء ما شاء ويحرم أي شيء ما شاء, right? Or he is
Sorry, this is why I can understand why they went to extreme measures of having dreams of this individual, where they're actually reciting his testimony of faith. They were reading his testimony of faith, the Shahada.
I think that might be a reason. That might be a really strong reason.
So you can see, go on, carry on.
But what I believe is that what I get through the context is that he was doing taqiyya. That's why he said, "Chunke min waj awam se muwafiqat amli thi." He wanted to have a soft image within the public, and there were scholars that was saying him Wahhabi, and he didn't want himself to be called Wahhabi. So he wanted to act the way Awam used to do it, the common public would do it. So it was full taqiyya mode. He wasn't. But if a Shia does it, then it's then you know the fatwas that come in. But Tanvi does it, then still he's a Hakimul Ummat. That's really fair. That's really fair.
He's still the messenger of Allah.
Yeah, that's really fair. So
let's move on to the next one, inshallah.
So this time we would be quoting, like now these two were to show that the Deobandi scholars in their past and the Ala Hazrat of Deobandis have celebrated Mawlud, right? And they have given permissibility of doing it too. Now we'll show you the fatwa. We'll show you a quote from Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri or Khalil Ahmad Ambedwi. He has a book called Barahin al-Qati'ah. It's Bijawab Anwar al-Sati'ah. Anwar al-Sati'ah was written by Abdul Sami' Iranpuri, and he discussed about Milad and Mawlud on it, and he gave proof showing permissibility of doing it.
Keep your microphone on mute because we're getting interference from the side.
Okay.
So Abdul Sami' Iranpuri showed different proofs about permissibility of celebrating Mawlud, and Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri and Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, they kind of co-authored this book, but usually when it is printed, it only has the name of Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri. So Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri, look, the way he has ridiculed and degraded celebrating Mawlud. What he says in Barahin al-Qati'ah, it's a book published by Darul Ashad in Karachi, in Pakistan, page number 152. So he says, बस ये हर रोज इआदे विलादत का तो मिसले हुनूद के संगे कुनिया की विलादत का हर साल करते हैं. Yes, Said, go through the translation, please, Said Hassan.
Okay, I will do that. Hold on, bear with me a second. Right, okay, now, so now which birth takes place repeatedly each year? So these people, Muslims, are daily repeating the birth of the Prophet, just as the Hindus dramatize annually celebrating the birth of Ganaya, the Hindu deity.
So, yeah, Muslimin, our readers, listener, whosoever is listening it, doing Mawlud is like doing celebrating birthday of a Hindu Ganaya deities, right?
So can I read that again? 1 second, hold on. Now, which birth takes place repeatedly every year? So these people, meaning obviously he's addressing the Muslims at the time who were celebrating it, which according to him, well, are daily repeating the birth of the Prophet, just as the Hindus dramatized annually celebrating the birth of. What is this?
Said this makes me sick, man. Like this is bad. This is bad. Big, and you see, like, if people that do suicide bombings, right, they do it because they deem that the people that are celebrating it, they are tantamount to be a Hindu.
Mm-hmm.
And when they equate them to be Hindus, so it's even a bigger problem, because now they were Muslims, now they're Hindus. So they're murtad now. And anyone who has left the deen, you know, the famous ruling of deen, the way it goes, right? So now they are taking them as murtad. Murtad, right? So people that are murtad now, that's why they are killing them. Simply, like, isn't that a simple formula? You know, where this terrorism text comes in, like we are just quoting you the real thing, the exact things that are there.
Yeah, it comes back to that point that, where you comparing the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, to, a brother or a shoemaker, and all these other low terms used for him, you compare him to a statue. Just honestly, these words are just disturbing.
Disturbing, Sayyid. Disturbing. Let's go to the next one, Sayyid. Let's just read the English translation for this one, inshallah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sada. Yeah, just read the English
I shall do that. I'll do that. Hold on, bear me a second. Sorry. So I'm just scrolling up for the text. So, sorry about this. The next text that we are reading is a
Fatwa Rashidiyah.
Yeah, Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 466 and 467. Yes,
I've got it. Yeah, sorry. So again, it's Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. There's a question: if a man believes in taziyas, relics, requesting from it his wishes, and reveals that Hazrat Imam Hussein, salam, the text is different, makes his presence in it, or covers the grave with the cloak, and requests assistance from the seniors, or an innovator who regards urs and Isal Swab after days as good actions, is one allowed to marry such a person? And the answer: one who does this is an absolute fasik, and there is danger of kufr. To marry a person to such a person is not allowed, because it is haram to have relationships and links with fusaq. So that's from Fatwa Rashidiyah, pages 466 to 467.
Again, just shows you the takfiri mindset that people have.
Absolutely. An individual that partakes in a majlis or in an urs, you can't marry that person because they're fasik. Okay.
How would you describe an urs? Because there's many views out there, probably the Muslims.
How should we say? I would say, like, for example, they have Sufi saints in Pakistan and India. So essentially, urs is, like a commemoration of that person, like his birthday or his death anniversary. So they get together and they will recite poetry about the Prophet on that day, or the al-Bayt alayhi salam. So that's what urs is about. It's dedicated to that day.
See, on one hand, because there's no doubt in certain of these places, there's all sorts of things that do occur, and sometimes certain people do break laws of what's permitted in the Sharia or not. But here, he's saying it collectively. He's not even giving circumstances. He's not even saying, well, okay, if this urs involves, I don't know, recitation of the Quran, hypothetically speaking, only, he would even prohibit that. So he's saying any type. And obviously he's saying that you can't even marry the person.
Yeah.
And you see, Sayyid, the thing that they have said is وَقَدْ أَنْفَاسِكَ or احتمال كفر ka hai. There is an ihtimal of him being a kafir too. Right? So it's not only a fasik, it just goes further than that. Let's go to the next one, Sayyid.
Next one? Shall I read the next one? Okay.
Yeah, just the English. Yeah.
Okay. Mawlid Sharif, and also in which no act is performed contradicting the laws of Sharia as previously held by Hazrat Shah Aziz Sahab, according to you, is such a practical lawful or unlawful? And is it the fact that Shah Sahab used to make urs or not? So that's the question. Is it permissible to partake in this? And the answer?
No, I think you've kind of skipped. Which one are you on? Fatwa Rashidiyah.
Sayyid, he's quoting from 225. Let him go 225. We'll go to 271 after this one.
My apologies.
Yes,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the answer: the holding of Mawlid functions, even if no contradiction or Sharia takes place in this time or period, it is not correct because of involvement of arrangements and innovation. Likewise, the same applies to all celebrations. At first, lots of people thought they were permitted, but later it became forbidden. And the functions of Mawlid.
This is what I was saying. Yeah.
And the functions of Mawlid and urs are part of this. Subhanallah.
Yes, Sayyid.
That's on page 255.
Sayyid, you know the thing that hurts me most is that Maulud Sharif or Urj जिसमें कोई बात खिलाफ शरा ना हो, like nothing which goes against the laws of Sharia.
So it's all fine.
It's all fine. Like usually, you know, the people that have argument, oh, you see, they have mixed gathering. Oh, you see, they have israf and they do this and that. You know, you don't have a problem with these things. You have problem with the Mawlud itself, with Dhikr Rasul itself.
Yeah, that's correct. That's what makes them so angry.
You're perfectly fine with having people holding your private parts and doing other things, taking you to give lectures, you know, looking at women's private parts with lust, these type of things, you know, writing the Quran with blood and urine, these type of things, perfectly fine, right? According to them, these don't belong to Sharia, but yeah, you know, of course, you know, doing everything within the boundaries of Sharia, like reciting the Quran or remembering the Prophet, maybe some blessings be upon him, about his good character, what he used to do, his generosity, etc., etc. That's forbidden, but on the other hand, everything else goes pretty much.
Subhanallah. What can you say to that? Right, I'm going to read the next text. Yeah, I'm going back to the one that I missed. Sorry about that. Is it permissible to join those Mawlud gatherings in which only correct narrations and incidents are read out? It is not permissible due to other reasons. Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 271. So even if it's a gathering in which everything is quoted is so authentic, so there's no dispute, even then it's not permissible. So that's on Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 271.
You know what I find funny about that?
Go on.
I'm sure I read it some time back, and they actually have this practice where they believe that you can read the books of Hadith. I believe Bukhari as a form of reward, and on one hand, that's you innovate and you introduce that, and you consider it to be some, you know, a rewardful act. But on the other hand, even if a report was authentically narrated, you were to read such reports in such gatherings, that would be prohibited. Can you see the ridiculous there? Can you see how irrational these people are?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Huh?
It makes no sense whatsoever.
These people, honestly, they lack logic.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the previous reference which you read from page 25. I'm just going to bring that up on the screen, inshallah, for the viewers to see. So, yeah. That was the previous one. Do you want to quote the next one?
Okay, I'll go to the next one. So I think I read the one. So this is again from Fatwa Rashidiyah. Question: is it permissible to read Surah Fatiha on food or sweets on a Thursday? Answer: to read Surah Fatiha on food or sweets is misleading bid'ah. It must not be read.
You skipped one.
Oh, sorry, because I missed one earlier. My apologies. I'll read that one first. Sorry. Are we allowed to attend the urs where only the Quran is read and sweets are distributed? Answer: it is not correct to attend any urs of Mawlud Sharif, and no urs of Mawlud is correct. Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 273 to 274.
Not only opposing the hadith of the Prophet, even if it was authentically reported, you even reject the Quran. Subhanallah.
Yeah. If someone is only reading Quran. Yeah, someone just reading Quran in Mawlud, nothing else, no naat, nothing, no qasida,
nothing,
no eulogy, just like Quran coming in. But anyways, inshallah, Sayyid Ali will show you discrepancy, inshallah, at the end of the show, like what they celebrate, right? Inshallah.
Exactly.
Okay,
I'm going to go back to.
Sorry, I'm going to go back. Just give me a second, because I don't want to skip the screen so fast so nobody can see there.
Yeah.
So just give me a second. I'll just bring it up again. And we'll go and shot to the next page. And then inshallah you can read the next one. So about Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, it's on the screen.
Ready? Yep.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it permissible to read Surah Fatiha on food or sweets on a Thursday? Answer: to read Surah Fatiha on food or sweets is a misleading bid'ah. It must not be read. So this is from Fatwa Rashidiyah, page 162. What can you say? So even so, I mean, to be honest, it's we already got the scene set anyway. You can't read the Quran, even if you can't be in a gathering where just the Quran is recited. You cannot be in a gathering where everything is pursuant to the Sharia. You can't go to a gathering with anything that's quoted is authentic. The very fact that you enter a building in which this is being celebrated, that in itself is what is the problem.
And you can't even marry such a person on top of it.
No,
That's so serious that you can't even marry such a person.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What can you say? What can you say? I think then,
Sadat, just make sure that you see like they're not allowed what kind of foods they are not allowed, inshallah.
exactly.
In the upcoming reference will show what kind of food they like to eat, inshallah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Said.
exactly.
Say, go ahead.
So there's a question. This is from Fatwa Rashidia. So have you got the actual reference? I just try to have a quick look at the. Yeah.
Let's say read the Urdu because I think it's
yes, it's an important one. Says read the Urdu, please, and I'll translate it.
So yeah, there are two questions that I'll be reading and two answers to it.
Okay.
Obviously, it says किताब तर्जुमा सिर्र शहादतैन या दीगर कुतुब शहादत खास शहादत की रात को पढ़ना कैसा है हस्ब ख्वाहिश नमाजियान मस्जिद या किसी के मकान पर। जवाब, अय्याम मुहर्रम में सिर्र शहादतैन का पढ़ना मना है हस्ब मुशाबहत मजालिस रवाफिस के। सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज मुहर्रम में अशरा वगैरह के रोज़ शहादत का बयान करना मा अशआर बेरवायत सहिया या बाज़ ज़ईफ़ा भी वनी सबील लगाना और चंदा देना और शरबत दूध बच्चों को पिलाना दुरुस्त है या नहीं। जवाब, मुहर्रम में ज़िक्र शहादत हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम करना अगरचे बेरवायत सहिया हो या सबील लगाना, शरबत पिलाना या चंदा सबील और शरबत में देना या दूध पिलाना सब नादुरुस्त और तशब्बुह रवाफिस की वजह से हराम है फ़कत। जी सैयद, go ahead with the translation.
Okay, so the question is to Goisab. Is it permissible to read Surah Fatiha on food or sorry, it is that one, isn't it?
Question.
Is the same question?
Say this is what is the Deobandi opinion about?
Sorry, I'm getting confused myself. I apologize. Is it permissible? Not okay. Sorry, I've got the top bit. Are we allowed? Sorry, I'm trying to understand the question. Sorry, Said. Can you read the question? The first bit in Urdu again, please.
Yeah, the question is about quoting authentic narrations and having sabil and distributing juice and drinks for the children.
So the question is, what is the Deobandi opinion about narrating Sahih narrations about the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, arranging sabil, donating money towards sabil and distributing juice and drinks, etc. The children in the month of Muharram. The answer: all these things are haram. Narrating the events about the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, even if it's authentic, which changes haram according to Mawlid Rashid Ahmad Gongoi Sahib. So that's from Fatwa Rashidia.
So how would you explain a sabil? Because on one hand, obviously, it's talking about distribution of. This is coming to now commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and it's a question of that and how to deal with. So on one hand, they're not permitted to even attend gatherings where authentic reports are mentioned about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But the question also relates to donating towards that. So donating towards the majalis, giving money or giving drinks now. And so basically all these things are haram for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's with the authentic chain.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, it's not allowed at all.
How can you call yourself lovers of Ahlul Bayt Islam? On what condition? You're against the idea of people gathering. Sorry, keep your microphone on mute.
I'll do it on mine as well.
So, on one hand, you're still on your microphone's on. Okay. So, on one hand, you oppose gatherings where authentic traditions are narrated about the Holy Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him and his family. You against the idea of attending gatherings where the Holy Quran is remembered at Mawlid, a day where you rejoice the holy birth of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon his family. So just can't understand, like, what can you actually say about these people? I mean, I can go into so much detail about this particular issue.
Say it. Even the thing that we haven't translated, thing we haven't translated, was that whether it's allowed to read Sirru Shahadatain of Shah Abdul Aziz Dehelwi. He was asked about it in days of Muharram. He says that reading Sirru Shahadatain of Shah Abdul Aziz Dehelwi in month of Muharram is haram, is not allowed. Now, Sirru Shahadatain is a book that Shah Abdul Aziz Dehelwi has penned and he has authored, and he talks about what happened in Karbala and what took place with Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. So even that is not allowed. Sirru Shahadatain is a really authentic book. I have seen Sunni scholars, especially in Indo-Pak, quoting it a lot. Right? And even like when he said you cannot even quote a Sahih Hadith, Sahih Riwayah, about the Shahada of Sayyid al-Shuhda, it tells you something. Dhikr Rasul not allowed. Dhikr Imam Hussein not allowed. Even doesn't matter, Sahih narration, Da'if, whatever. It's just not allowed.
But you rather think about a woman's vagina with lust just to protect your aqidah on what you consider to be sick.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't even attend a gathering in which the Quran is being read. Could you believe that? I mean, these are something that you'd say.
Let's not misquote. No, where it's in remembrance of the Prophet's birthday.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, in that context. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah, we have to quote the context. But you know, it's what could you say? What can you say? But you almost get lots of words, to be honest. And where are we now? I mean, should we go to the next? I think if we
say go to the next one. Go to the next one about the Hindu one. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next one about the Hindu one. Right. Here we are. So this is Gangohi Sahib's. Now you will see something interesting. In the Hindu celebration of Holi or Diwali, they spend foodstuff for their teacher, master, or servant who is a Muslim. Can a Muslim, Deobandi teacher or servant accept them and eat from it? The answer: yes, it is lawful. Question: if a Hindu utilizing his interest money sets up a public water drinking facility, can a Muslim drink from such a place? Answer: yes, there's no problem in drinking in such a facility. That's from Fatwa Rashidia, page 575. What can you say? So these are the same people that are opposed to partaking in any celebration of the birthday of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, the Shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or the birth anniversary of saints. They're against that, but they're quite okay to partake in Hindu celebrations of the Diwali.
Even against taking milk or juice from Sabil.
Yeah, absolutely. Sabil, remember, I think we didn't explain that. Sabil, basically in the Indo subcontinent culture, is when it's like people have got milk and water, they distribute it on the 10th of Muharram. So when large marches are taken out, gathering ceremonies, and my experience in Indian subcontinent, often Sunnis do this. They'll be handing out sabils, like in water and milk, and distributing it to the mourners. So Rashid Ahmed Gangohi, he took umbrage by that. He had an issue with that type of distribution. But it's fine if it involves distribution linked to what? To what event? Is it a Muslim event?
No, Diwali, Sayyid.
There we are, that's what I'm saying. I mean, so that's fine. Diwali is A-okay. But astaghfirullah, when we talk about the issue of distributing it in a Muslim event, not acceptable. So that's almost like a taboo.
So it's forbidden to recite Fatiha, right? You can't read Fatiha on food on Thursday because that's innovation. You can't have food and drinks at places which are, at the Mawlid, either Milad, right? You can't have the food and drink or even donate towards a majalis of Imam Hussein Islam, even if it's authentically reported. But it's perfectly acceptable to take food from a Holi and Diwali festival. It's absolutely, there's no problem. In fact, you know, interest in itself, interest money, interest money is something which is heavily, Islam really attacks the whole idea about interest. And, you know, I don't want to get into a whole debate about interest, but here there's a question related about a Hindu who's obviously used his interest money to, you know, produce some sort of water machine, water facility of any kind. That's fine. You can drink from that. Yeah. No problem. But you can't drink the sabil of Muhammad Islam. From the sabil of Muhammad Islam.
Yeah.
I think people would drink and eat where they find proximity with.
Yeah.
So that tells you. Yeah. I think that proximity is somewhere else, and alhamdulillah, we don't have the proximity with these people.
He didn't. Have you noticed? He didn't say, "Oh, you know," he didn't say anything about how deviant they are and about the beliefs and how you should refrain from like staying away from them or attending their gathering, anything like that. He said, "No, it's fine. You can chill with them. You know, it's no problem. You can, you know, it's lawful. It's fine. You can eat their food. You know, despite the other rulings and regulations you may have about them touching their food and what they could possibly be reading. So remember, when you have like this, when it comes to the Sikh community, you know, they have langar, they recite certain hymns over the food, and likewise the Hindus doing the Holi and Diwali, they do exactly the same thing. They'll be supplicating, you know, they'll be calling on their gods and they'll be supplicating, blowing on this food.
Yes.
That's fine. You can eat that, but you can't eat the food that's had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name mentioned on it.
They call it parsad, you know, the Hindus.
Parsad, yeah, parsad, or
parsad. Yeah. So the parsad of a sanam, of the parsad of an idol is okay.
Yeah.
But someone who recited name of Allah on a food is haram. Yeah, interesting.
Wow,
right.
Amazing.
Let's go ahead, Sayyid. You wanna
say that? Let me carry on. Let me carry on this.
Okay. You want to show what they like to eat.
Sure. So sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Sayyid. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So this is Ashraf Ali Thanvi in his book Amdad al-Mushtaq, and he quotes in story incident number 224. He says, "It was said 2 plates were presented to someone who was a Mohid. The Mohid, I believe. He was a true believer. Muwahid. Sorry, yeah, I was going to say because that's not correct. But yeah, he was a Muwahid, and he was a believer. This term is given to somebody who's a true believer of Tawheed. Okay, so Ashraf Ali Thanvi is presenting in what he considers to be a true believer in Tawheed. He said, if halwa, so somebody perhaps maybe was asking him a question, if halwa, sweet, and ghaliz, filth, is the same, then eat both. So according to them, somebody who's a true believer in Tawheed, obviously this is somebody who must have believed in the concept of Wahad al-Wujud. We're not going to talk about that again, big topic. There's different views, thoughts about it, and obviously this is clear pantheism, what you see here. This is, according to Ashraf Ali Thanvi, this pantheistic individual was a true believer in Tawheed. And somebody asked a question: if halwa and if something sweet and filth is the same thing, then what do you call it? Eat them. So he, this particular sheikh, they called him Sheikh he was a sheikh of Sheikh al-Waqt. He was a sheikh of his time. Obviously, it's a title where a particular individual reaches a certain level of spirituality. He transformed. He took form of a pig, and he ate the feces, and then he took the form of the human, and he ate the halwa. So, as you can see from this particular story, Ashraf Ali Thanvi is presenting somebody who he considers to be a true believer in Tawheed, where he was posed a question. This particular individual who was a believer, according to him, that if filth and something, if filth and sweet are the same thing, then eat it. And then what did he do? He ate. He transformed into a pig and ate the pieces. Then he transformed into human. Then he ate the halwa. So that's allowed. You can do that, yeah, to prove God, yeah. Eat something which is totally impure, as you can see. But
Say it,
you,
say it,
what
say
it
it.
is,
So I think if we can get Kit Kat in Hyde Park, inshallah, this time, it will be interesting. So Kit Kat and maybe not feces, but something else, right? And present it to two Sheikhain. That will be a good show. What do you think?
well, if he, according to Sheikh Ashraf Ali Thanvi, that would be somebody who's considered definitely a true believer in Tawheed. But the
Yeah,
point is, look, at the end of the day, whatever the case is, the bottom line is this: jokes aside, here quite clearly you can see something impure. That's fine. You can eat that, yeah, to prove the existence of God or his belief in the concept of Wahad al-Wujud or whatever. But you have such a opposition to, people reciting verses of the Quran on food on Thursday. You have complete opposition to those who commemorate the
Yeah.
Imam Sayyid Islam using authentic traditions. You have strong opposition to those who, remember the birth of the Holy Prophet. Even verses of the Quran are read there authentically, whether they have authentic Hadith read there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all something strictly not allowed. But hey, that's fine. You can eat, he says, no problem. You can eat food that's had Ram and Sita and Lakshmi's name read on there. But
Yeah.
that's perfect. There's no issue with that.
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
unfortunate.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
Okay,
Next
so
reference.
continue on. Yes,
Next
that's.
reference.
Sorry, just give me a second. My screen is playing up me. Sorry, give me a second. Yes, that's page 100 from Imdad al-Mushtaq.
Okay, from Dodd. Right, I'm just opening it up now. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna finish it off for you.
Yeah, you do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Said can read the Urdu, inshallah, because any couple.
Yeah. So this one is an interesting thing. What they like to drink. So Maulana Ashik Ilahi Merathi Sahab says in Tazkiratul Rashid, volume number 1, page number 113. Wallahu al-Azim. Like mashallah, nowadays Deobandis are, saying a lot of qasm, right? Wallah, wallah, wallah. So this is now wallah of Ashik Ali Sahab. He says, Wallahu al-Azim. मौलाना थानवी के पांव धोकर पीना निजात उखरवी का सबब है. Go ahead, say it.
They want to talk about ghulu and exaggeration.
Yeah.
So just have a look. His Excellence has reached such a limit. Yeah, because of course you were already calling him a prophet anyway, right? You were saying a shahada after all. You're waking up from a dream reading something similar. So His Excellence has reached such a limit by Allah that by washing the feet of Ashraf Ali Thanvi and drinking the water is reason of obtaining salvation of the hereafter. This is like kind of reminds you of those people who say anybody who's tasted even or drank, you have these traditions. I'm not going to talk about authenticity or whatever, but it talks about people drinking the urine of the Prophet or the blood of the Prophet, and they
have problem with it. They have problem with these.
Yeah, well, whatever the case, we can discuss that another time whether it's authentic or not. Whatever the case, but the bottom line is you have these traditions, right? So you have these traditions on one hand, which you may reject, but on the other hand, you're willing to accept these ridiculous statements, which, if that's not exaggeration, you want to protect your iman so much that you fear of doing shirk, and you blasphemize the Holy Prophet, may his blessing be upon him. But when it comes to these individuals who you revere and you follow, that's fine. You can easily say statements of disbelief. If this is not exaggeration, what is exaggeration? What, you can't drink from the Sabil of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but you can drink from the dirty water. And remember, in those times, they probably weren't even wearing shoes. They were probably wearing slippers. And the streets of Deoband, they must have been very dirty. Let's be realistic. If you go back home, nowadays, obviously, with development stuff, they built roads or whatever. But in those times, the roads were dirty. The gutters used to sometimes overflow. And you can wash his feet and you can drink that, and that can be your purpose of salvation, but not attending either Milad or Nabi, where authentic traditions are read, with remembrance of the Holy Prophet is read. Wow, what can you say? God save us, honestly. Allahu Akbar.
It's truly shocking.
I'm just thinking, if Thanvi would go for a shower, what would have happened? All the Deobandis coming, mashallah. Let's take tabarruk, free tabarruk. Thanvi will wash his feet. If washing feet has such a merit, then washing neck, washing head, hands, and everything, mashallah, that would have been even more. What do you think, guys?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that will be interesting, mashallah.
You have problems with the turba of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the clay or the mud, whatever you want to call it. You have probably problems with that. Haqshfa. Yeah. So,
yeah.
but then you get shafa from Tanvi's feet.
Yeah.
I think for us we have Khaki Shifa. For them they have Tanvi's feet. Alhamdulillah. We have Alhamdulillah we have Karbala and they have Deoband. That's it.
Absolutely. They have thesis and these type of
Yeah.
things.
All right, Sadat, mashallah.
Right.
I think that was the last reference for tonight.
Say it. You, one of your video came out. You were looking like Swamiji, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think was the right time for them to bring this video, right? You showed the real Swami.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But guys, you know what? On the topic of innovation, right? I wanna present you something, because the thing is, just on one hand, we consider these things to be innovation, but not Diwali and eating their food or whatever. But they themselves actually innovated a few different things. I remember, and Said can correct me, did they not invite Indira Gandhi to one of their celebrations? And I can remember a picture vaguely of.
Say it. Absolutely, yeah.
Am I correct?
100 years of celebration that they have for Deoband.
Absolutely, and I think if I remember this, they were like leading Deobandi sheikhs at the time, sitting there in the audience, big beards and stuff. They were sitting on the floor, and she was standing there in her sari. You can understand, the way that Hindu women, some women wear sari. Some of them are not that strict in the way they conduct their covering and stuff. And I think her head wasn't covered as well. She didn't even have her head covered, and she was actually invited by them to give a speech. So that's fine. That's okay. Fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, hell, if she even dropped her sari and they all looked at her lustfully, right? that would have been that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
But if they're praying at the time.
If they were praying, that's true. Which then can obviously find reason to pray, right? But but don't look at it outside pray. But don't look at the Quran, right? Because that's going to totally invalidate your prayers. But looking at Indira Gandhi it's fine. It's okay.
So double standards. So they would have Khatam for Bukhari. They would have like in Pakistan, in different areas, they would have days of Amir Muawiyah, days of Abu Bakr and Umar and everyone. But days of Rasulullah not allowed.
Days of Imam Hussain not allowed.
Not allowed.
But Muawiyah Day is fine.
Muawiyah Day is okay. They would have different procession and gatherings and ceremonies for Muawiyah. But nothing for Sayyid al-Shuhada, right? Because that's haram for Rasulullah.
Absolutely.
I want to see if I can perhaps screen share, because I want to actually bring something up for you guys, for the viewers to see. If you guys carry on talking, I want to see if I can bring it up for you.
Yeah, just say this is the contradiction in their approach is what amazes me. These are the people that proudly proclaim that they're the true, followers of the religion and the protectors of the deen, and they're very rigid in their interpretation.
Yeah,
but
okay.
You see how lax they are when they want to be.
I've got it. I managed to bring it up.
Okay.
So you should be able to see. If you just give me a second, I'll make my screen bigger. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, say it.
It's actually on YouTube, and it's called Unity of India. Read it carefully. Can you see that?
Yes, say it. Yeah.
So this is celebrating 100 years of the institution of Deoband, of their scholarship, or whatever. Even though I think it's actually over 100 years old, isn't it? About 120, 30.
Yeah, it might be 100 years in different contexts, say it. But anyways, so they are celebrating something. Yeah.
Yeah, they're celebrating something, and this is the channel's called Voice of Deoband. So it's not like some sort of made-up channel. And you could see in the crowd, they've got you can see a Hindu priest there. You've got a Sikh gentleman there, and it's they're rejoicing basically. They're celebrating the 100th year of. You see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
think there's even a part where they all hold up the number 100 celebration.
The Sahaba used to do it.
Yeah, did the Sahaba do this?
Yeah, they have an argument, Sahabas and Tabi'een.
Yeah. Look, the guy, I think that guy looks Buddhist, to be honest with you. This
Yeah, Buddhist.
You've got a Buddhist.
Buddhist.
Got a Sikh gentleman there. This is fine, you know.
This is okay.
This is no problem. Yeah. This won't affect your belief in your faith that you have that you may do shirk, because obviously your man is so weak. But there's no problem with this. I want to bring up another clip actually. I want to stop quickly screen sharing. If I can bring it up possibly. If you say it can carry on. The next clip's quite interesting actually. It's where they are actually standing for the national Indian anthem. If you just give me a second, I'll see if I can bring it up. Okay, guys, just give me a minute. So,
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So this is another clip, and as you can see, again, there's it says it's Maulana Madani. So if you got a problem, guys, you're gonna have to take it up with this Maulana Madani Memorial School of Deobandi. It's his channel, and they've got a clip here of you could see people standing for the national Indian anthem. Anyway, these are clips of little children. To be honest with you, I don't want to be sharing that in the first place. I don't think it's appropriate to be honest with kids, especially that age, to be broadcast in that way. It's not right. It's not ethical. But the point being, you are brought up practically standing up for the national Indian anthem. That's fine. That gets taught in your madrasa, gets taught in your institutions. You're taught to sit down with Hindus, Buddhists, from them, gifts from them on Diwali and Holi, and you could take food they've read their mantras on, and that's fine. That's all okay, you know. Eating feces, drinking the water of Tanvi's feet, that will get you. But nothing.
That's all good.
That's all good. That's perfectly fine. That's you got that issue on one side, right? Including the fact that you can look at women naked, you call it Deobandi and all these other things, right? That's okay. But your opposition is what? Allah's messenger, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the words of the messenger of Allah, his seerah, his life, what he did.
Yeah.
Remembering the day, the praises, because let's be realistic, the only people who are going to have a problem with that are Munafiqeen, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, Sayyid, absolutely, yeah.
His zikr. His zikr.
Zikr of the Imam Hussain alayhi salam and the martyrs of Karbala. You can't even recite it authentically in your books.
Unfortunate, seriously.
So anyway, I think that's enough for today's show. So I think we're going to bring it to an end, inshallah.
Yeah, I think so.
Sayyid Hassan?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadat, for today's show. Inshallah ta'ala, we will continue our series on the Deobandis. We really are hoping that the dynamic duo, and obviously I'm sure they're watching, we have brothers addressed your lies and the way that you've misconstrued narrations over the past few weeks, and we really are looking forward to you actually responding. We'd like to know when you're going to do that. That deals with that, inshallah. So next week we will continue at the same time next week. Keep us all in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum.
And just before we finish off to the viewers, we're not doing any question answer today. Unfortunately, we've had to contact us. So today there's perhaps not question answer as such, but we may share the link in the video chat. So if there's people out there who want to join, inshallah, you're more than welcome to.
But we will do that afterwards at the moment. Yeah. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye, Islam.